Okay, a live look at the Dow now, down still about 113 points, staying right around that area now since the market's been open almost 20 minutes. All this amid new jobless claims out this morning. Look at this number, 5.2 million now have filed for unemployment. That's this week, according to the Department of Labor. Now a total bringing it to 22 million people that we know of out of work since a wave of state-ordered lockdowns starting in mid-March, forcing most businesses to close or operate if they can with skeleton staff. Joining us now to discuss, market analyst Michael Lee. He is the founder at Michael Lee Strategy. Mattie Duppler, senior fellow at the National Taxpayers Union. Good to see both of you here. Michael, start with you. The unemployment numbers here staggering, 5 million. But you say there's a little bit of hope in this. Kind of share that with us.
Yeah, so the numbers, it's down well over 1 million jobs from the filers of last week. Hopefully next week this number will fall off a cliff, and the trend is encouraging. And I think when we see the continuing claims 3 or 4 weeks from now, and the continuing claims would be the people who continue to file for unemployment, then we'll really be able to assess the damage. But I think the hope that we're seeing is this narrative that now it's time to focus on reopening the economy and how we get it open.
Mattie, do you want to weigh in on this? Because the unemployment rate continues to climb, obviously, here. So many people, they want to get back to work at this point. They want their jobs back.
That's right. And Michael is right about those continuing claims numbers. That will tell us if any of the efforts that Washington has made to try and dilute some of the effects of the coronavirus crisis are taking hold. Those are things like the PPP loans that are supposed to allow businesses to keep their workers on payroll. Obviously, that program still needs to get funded. The initial tranche of money has seemed to have worn out because it has been so popular with businesses. But we will know if people continue to claim unemployment. That means that they're either not able to get rehired with their job, or those businesses haven't been able to access those funds. So I think that that's the next tranche in assessing how we can recover economically, is if we can see some of this data start to reflect the efforts that have been made in Washington to stem the tide of joblessness.
Mike, it's easy to read the headline. There are issues with the PPP, the program there, the Paycheck Protection Program. But have you yourself talked to anybody that owns a business that are really experiencing issues, not being able to get that money? I'm trying to find the seriousness of needing that money now, needing more money now from the government.
Yeah, listen, I'm in the businesses of serving small business owners, and I'm a small business owner myself. Many of the clients that I have that run and operate their own businesses are desperately waiting on these funds. As you can imagine, there's a massive backlog of people applying for this money. And if the money runs out and these people ultimately don't get it, they're going to have to close up shop. And I'm sure, the dozen or so people that I've talked to, there's millions of cases like that. So the government needs to get back to work. They need to keep funding this program. They're the ones that shut this economy down to, quote unquote, flatten the curve. The curve was never... the curve has been flattened to a far greater degree than even the rosiest of expectations. So the government really overestimated the damage that this was going to cause from a loss of life and from a disease perspective. They need to now get back in, refund this program so that these people can get this money and keep their life's work afloat.
Yeah, it's huge. Listen, the president here, like everyone else, wants to get back to work. But today he's expected to announce some new guidelines from the CDC, from FEMA, to reopen the economy. Mattie, I'll start with you. What are some of your expectations on reopening the economy?
Well, I think what you're hearing from Michael is probably the expected criticism, which is that this didn't get as bad as expected. Let me be clear. That is the best possible scenario for us to be in, that it did not get as bad as expected, because remember, as bad as expected was 2.2 million deaths in this country. So it is crucial that we continue to keep our eye on the ball here, which is that this is a public health crisis that has economic consequences. Those economic consequences can be devastating if the public policy response is not targeted and exigent. So what we need, as Michael said, I agree with him on this point, is we need government to continue to offer that support, but we also need government to be taking the advice of the public health experts. You saw from the bankers who talked to the president yesterday that unless the American consumer has confidence to participate in this economy, we're not getting back online. That confidence starts with having a plan to keep people safe, and we need to make sure that we have those precautions in place across this country before we can get the economy back online.
Mattie, really quick, back to you here. The PPP, that whole thing going back to businesses is good. They need it. But bottom line, if you don't have customers, if you don't have anyone participating and you're not making revenue, how much of this is only a Band-Aid?
It's not a Band-Aid in the sense that we can get this economy back online. We know exactly why the economy has been shut down. It's to contain a pandemic. So it's good that we know the cause. The question is, how can we sustain those businesses until those consumers are able to make those purchases again? And listen, we need to help these small businesses manage their inventories, manage their cash flow. They're not used to having to cut down this consumer base the way they've been required to do so. So we need to give them support to get back online quickly, but in stages.
Real quick, Mike, about 10 seconds left. Just your final response.
Yeah, I don't think the government is capable of stemming these businesses for too much longer. I think if we get the all clear from the president, I think it was right to want to open the economy this past Monday after Easter. I think if we get the all clear, people will be back out in droves. Grocery store sales are up like 25 or 26% year over year. There's money. People want to get out. They want to spend. They're just waiting for the government to let them do it. So the government needs to do what it does best, which is get out of the way.
All right. Michael Lee, founder at Michael Lee Strategy, Mattie Duppler, senior fellow at the National Taxpayers Union. Good to see you both. Thanks for coming on. Stay safe.